Hello everyone, this is Ismail Haddad here. In the first lecture of this course, I'm going to speak about the domain name servers, or what we normally know as DNS. So DNS works on port number 53 on both TCP and UDP. And the function of the DNS is to map the domain name to IP address and vice versa. For example, if you want to go to www.facebook.com, normally the networks devices like routers, it doesn't understand facebook.com, so it needs to understand what is the IP address of the server of facebook.com in order to route the packet to that server. And that's what DNS do. It map the domain name of facebook.com to an IP address, and then the router can route the packet to go to the server of facebook.com. So this is the main idea of the DNS. Now on MikroTik, you can allow users to pass their DNS request to the router, and the router by itself, it will forward it to the DNS server. So in the upcoming lab, which is the first lab, I'm going to show you how you can enable that on the router. So how can you set the DNS on the router and allow the computers in your network to send their DNS traffic to the router, so the router will allow those traffic to come via him. And also I'm going to show you how you can do the caching inside your MikroTik router. So that means that if you have many users who are visiting facebook.com, so instead of every traffic to go to the DNS server, if the first user sends the request to facebook.com, it will cache this inside the MikroTik router, and then if the second user wants to go to the same domain name, then it will be directly mapped to the IP address. And also I will show you how you can create static entries inside the DNS. So if you want, for example, a domain name to have a static entry always for an IP address, then you can add that on the MikroTik router. So this is what I'm going to show you in the upcoming lab. It's going to be the first lab, and it's also a long lab. So let's go directly and start with the lab.